Before we talk about the quadratic formula, I want to quickly review the 5 ways that we've already learned how to solve a quadratic equation. As a reminder, a quadratic equation looks something like this, where you have a quadratic in it and an equation sign, and we always set it equal to 0. So you've got the graphing method, graphing calculator method, algebraically, factoring, and harder factoring. So we've got 5 methods, and this quadratic formula is going to be our 6th method. So in your notes right now, I definitely want you to write down the quadratic formula. So I would write this down, and I would even say quadratic formula. And I also want you to write this down. This is our skeleton for the quadratic formula, and I'll explain what that means in a second. So get that down. All right, so now that you've gotten that down, I want you to look at this problem right here, and I want you to label that your A is equal to 2, your B is equal to -2, and your C is equal to -12. And so now we're just going to plug right into the skeleton. This says to do the opposite of B, so I've got my opposite, and my B is going to be a -2. Plus or minus, well, what do I do here? This is going to be a b squared, so that's going to be a -2 squared, minus, notice how there's going to be a 4. There's already a 4 in the formula right here. And then I'm going to put my A next, and then my C. So my A is 2, and my C is -12. All over 2 times A, so I'm putting an A here. So let's just summarize this. Everywhere I saw a B, which was here and here, I put a -2. Everywhere I saw an A, here and here, I put a +2. And then where I saw that C, I put in my -12 right there. And the rest of it is just going to be the same in every single problem. Like we're always going to have that 2, we're always going to have that -4, we're always going to have that plus or minus. All right, at this next step now, after we've plugged in, we are going to solve this. And we're going to do this in steps, so don't go aggressive and just try to do it all at once. Let's first deal with this. What is a minus of a -2? Well, that's going to be x equals +2. Then, what I want you to do is this entire thing in your graphing calculator. So I want everyone to pick up their graphing calculator right now and do -2 squared minus 4 times 2 times -12. And let's make sure you're keeping those parentheses. If you don't, you're going to get the wrong answer. So let's make sure you all get the same thing. What do you get? I get a 100. Okay, all divided by, now I'm going to do this. 2 times 2 is 4. So just as a reminder, I just did 3 things right there. After plugging in, I calculated this, the thing under the square root, and this. Do not do the square root already. Okay, don't do the square root already. Just do the math under the square root. All right, well, what is the square root of 100? Well, that's 10. So I'm going to get x equals 2 plus or minus 10 all over 4. Well, let's split that up into 2 different answers. We're going to have x equals 2 plus 10 divided by 4, and x equals 2 minus 10 divided by 4. That's what that plus or minus symbol means. Remember, we're always going to do our grouping symbols first. There's implied grouping symbols in the numerator because it's division. So it's going to give us 12 divided by 4, which is a 3. 2 minus 10 is going to give me a -8 divided by 4, and that gives me a -2. So those are our 2 answers on this problem. If you do this in your calculator, you're going to need to make sure you put parentheses around the numerator, or else you're going to get the wrong answer. All right, we've done it. We've solved our first problem with the quadratic formula. Let's practice another one. Okay, here we've got A equals 1, B equals -2, and C equals -8. Maybe pause this video and see if you can plug in properly to the skeleton. All right, you should have gotten a -2 here. That's where your B is going. Another B is here. You've got your 4 already down. Your A is 1, and your C is -8, all over 2A. So that's a 1. All right, let's just make sure I've done this right. Do I have my B in properly? My -2 and my -2? Yes, I do. Do I have my A's in properly, which should be a 1 and a 1? Yes, I do. And do I have my C in properly? Yes, I do. And I mean, I know that this is a little bit babyish, like putting in this skeleton. I will guarantee you that you'll make less mistakes if you do it, though. All right, so what do we have for our answer? We have x equals, remember we're doing 3 boxes right now. We're doing this, the thing under the square root, and this. So this is going to give me x equals 2 plus or minus the square root of something. 2 times 1 is 2. So let's get that thing under the square root. Remember, you're not doing the square root symbol in your calculator. You're just doing -2 squared minus 4 times 1 times -8. And you should try this with me. Please make sure you put in your parentheses. If you don't, you're going to have issues. I get an answer of 36. All right, so we're going to have x equals 2 plus or minus, well, what's the square root of 36? That's 6 all over 2. So this is going to split up into 2 answers. This is going to be x equals 2 plus 6 over 2, and x equals 2 minus 6 over 2. Well, this gives me an 8 divided by 2, which is a 4, and a 2 minus 6, which is a -4 divided by 2, which is a -2. And we have our 2 answers. Thanks for watching. We'll be doing some harder ones with quadratic formula, but again, I highly emphasize drawing your skeleton first. So make sure in your notes you have this skeleton and you're able to know what to plug in where with B's, A's, and C's. Thanks for watching.